Johannesburg. So I'm sitting in the comfort of my own study. Welcome once again. Thank you for giving up your time and your commitment to entrepreneurship and building your business. Please, thank you to those of you who have reached out to me and Dawn. We really, really encourage you. We want your success is our success. We want you to, ask us as many questions, reach out to us during the 6 weeks where we can, obviously this is normally in classroom. So, and we normally have 3 hours per session. So because it's so much shorter, we really just want to make sure that you get the most value possible out of this hour. What I'm going to do is after each, so in each of our training sessions, there's 7 little points that we go through. After each one, I'll take 1 question if there are questions. Otherwise, please write your questions down. And what we'll do at the end is I'll save 5 minutes at the end for any other questions and closing remarks. So I'm very happy to do that. Please don't be shy. We're all friends here. And the intention is that you all end up, connecting with each other as well. The way entrepreneurs are successful is that, we also help each other. So it would be nice, Lisa, if we did, introduce ourselves to each other a little bit further down the line. Don't worry, right at the end, you're all going to pitch your businesses to Dawn and I. We're going to have a little shark tank ourselves online. So you're going to start preparing yourselves for that. And that's going to be huge fun. Don't be nervous. But yeah, on that note, let me share my screen and let's get the show on the road, as Lisa says. Okay. Here we go. So can everybody see that? Happy days. Okay. So today is all about marketing and branding. And as I said, this is very much my lane. This is what I do. I own an agency. And it's about making your mark, unlocking your creativity to create credibility, trust, and loyalty within your brand. So what is a brand? And this is often where I get some interaction. What do you understand by brand? So often people here say it's a logo, or it's, it's the Nike tick, or it's, the actual look and feel, or the font, or whatever the case may be that you actually see when you engage with a product. But it's much more than that. A brand is actually a very complex thing. It's an intangible sum of all the product's attributes. And it's how your customers feel when they think about you. And I think if you think about some of the brands, whether it be, and to Daniel, forgive me, I'm going to use you now, You Cook or Woolworths or Zara, how do you feel when you actually engage with those kinds of brands? And it's how that brand makes you feel. So in essence, a brand is a promise. And it is crucial to any business. It's how your customers, you think of yourself walking down those Woolworths or Pick and Pay or Checkers queues, aisles, and how do you feel about the brands that you interact with? So why is branding so crucial? And I think the mistake that some of us make in the early days, and I've made these mistakes too. I've had my business for 22 years. We've gone through probably about 5 or 6 brands already as we have evolved. So we've had to, evolve our brand with us. But because in the early days, we weren't trying to attract the same clientele that we're trying to attract today. So why is branding crucial? So I'm going to go through 7 characteristics of successful brands. Now, please, my book and my presentation are not identical. So we kind of do that on purpose so that, you don't just follow the book, and what I say today isn't exactly the same as the book. So don't worry about that. There'll be things that we say today that aren't in the book and vice versa. You can get some more information from the book as well. But the 7 characteristics that we've identified for successful brands are: 1, you have to know your audience. So I love to tell the story of the 3 cell phone brands, because I just think that everybody understands them: Vodacom, MTN, and Cell C. Sadly, Cell C is not doing so well these days. I think they've actually been taken over by Liquid Telecom, but you'll get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Now, in the early days, Vodacom was the green and the blue. They very much went for a corporate market. Green and blue are calm, safe colors. They went for that corporate market. They wanted those big contracts with the corporates, and Vodacom was kind of seen as that corporate brand. Then you had the middle of the road, was MTN, yellow, friendly, fun. It was kind of the cell phone network for the people. And, you know, they went into Africa and they appealed to a wide audience, kind of, you know, everybody knew and loved kind of MTN. They were much more that middle market. Then along came Cell C and they thought, no, no, I tell you what we want to do. We want to attract the youth. And you just look at their logo. It's a lowercase, it had all the little red dots, and they really wanted to attract that youth market. The other two networks weren't really doing that. But later on, in the last 2 years, I think it's 2 or 3 years now, Vodacom clicked onto that and thought, we are missing a massive opportunity to protect our future. And they rebranded. They rebranded with a very funky red. Now they're attracting that because they wanted the longevity of getting the youth on board. So they then rebranded to their red, which is obviously, you know, passion and energy, and successfully now they are attracting the youth market. So branding is so crucial, and it is so important that you know and understand your audience. It's not about you. And, you know, you might like the color blue or the color pink or whatever the case may be, but that might not necessarily be right for your audience. So it is very critical that you understand your audience and you know who you're talking to. Fonts make a difference. Colors make a difference. How you present yourselves make a difference. I mean, you think of some of the leisure brands like Holiday Inn. I mean, I think of the old Holiday Inn logo, which was all laid back and green. I mean, you just kind of want to go on holiday. It's just chilled. You think of some of the more serious brands like the banks, Old Mutual, Standard Bank, capital letters, no nonsense. You know, you want blue is a safe color, IBM, another, you know, you want to feel safe. So you really have to understand there's a lot of psychology that goes into branding. There's a lot of psychology in colors, fonts. So you really have to understand this market. And it's not just about, you know, what product that you've actually have come up with. It's also about how you're going to communicate that product to your audience. I'll go through at the end where I'll bring it all together and just show you a diagram. It is also in the book, the Know Your Audience diagram, but we'll touch on that again at the end. Are there any questions at this point? Okay. Okay, so you've got to be unique. It's easy to stand up. It's hard to stand out. We are living in a digital era where there is so much clutter, information. I mean, I think just the statistics on YouTube, video content that's getting loaded, content that's getting loaded now onto both Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the different LinkedIn, all the platforms. So how are you going to be unique? How are you going to stand out in this crazy, loud, confusing, you know, world that we now find ourselves in? The digital, there used to be a statistic, it took 8 seconds for somebody to leave a website. If somebody went onto a website and was browsing a website, didn't like what they saw, it would be around about 8 seconds that they would then leave the website. That number, that attention span has gone down to 4 seconds. You have 4 seconds to capture somebody's attention with your brand. So it is so important that you are unique and that you do stand out. Okay, then from a consistency point of view, I remember in the early days, we had Alan Gray as a client. Now they are obviously, as you know, a big financial services client. Every time you see something from these big brands, their color is 100% consistent. The way they place their logo is exactly the same place on exactly the same, on all their material. I remember them saying, you know, our logo needs to be 1 centimeter from the left at the bottom and half a centimeter from the right. And I was like, gosh, this is ridiculous. I mean, why? You know, does anybody care? But consistency builds trust. And trust is a currency. So when you build trust with your clients, they come back and they buy more from you. But it is so important that what they see from you is always consistent. I mean, you think of the brands that you interact with, you know, all the time, the Woolworths of the world, you know, the your financial services advisor, whoever that might be, your bank. They are consistent. They say the same things. They do the same things over and over. They want to develop a relationship with you. And by being consistent, and that is how people start trusting you. There's no such thing as an overnight success, guys. You know, an overnight success can take 8 or 9 years. So, but that consistency builds that trust with your client. And trust, as I say, I'm going to repeat it, is a currency, is a business currency. You really need to understand that. Okay. Then we're going to go on to how do we now stand out? So I'm going to take you through a little exercise on, and I think it's in your worksheets. In fact, I know it is in your worksheets, is what are the things that you need to do to enable you to stand out in this sort of, you need to understand what your product and service is. What are you actually offering your clients? What is that unique brand, that unique product, that unique service that you are actually offering them? And how are you going to ensure that you stand out? Now, this is where you have to understand the psychology of colors, the psychology of fonts. You know, are you an uppercase brand? Or are you a lowercase brand? Are you wanting to be friendly and fun? Or are you wanting to be, you know, quite serious and professional? Now, in your worksheet that I've given you, in fact, I'm going to actually make you go through this little exercise. Now, I know some of you already have an established brand, so just bear with me now while we go through this little brand personality spectrum. In your worksheet, there's a brand personality spectrum. So, are you corporate and professional, or are you personable and friendly? You have to decide here, who is it that you are trying to attract? Is it those corporate clients, or is it the man on the street? Is it women? Is it men? Is it children? Is it the youth? Is it the elderly? Who is it that you are trying to attract? And this then forms the foundation for how are you going to attract those people. Then, are you a spontaneous, high energy brand? Are you some, you know, like a Nike or a activewear, or that where you can use movement in your font, where it can actually be quite fun? Or are you careful thinking and planning? Are you an accountant, or are you careful thinking and planning? Do you want, you know, no mess, no fuss? And that's why I love the You Cook logo, and I'll use you again, Daniel, because you guys have really nailed it. Is, you know, cooking can be a messy thing, but the You Cook logo is just like that, no mess, no fuss. Here we are, capital letters. They didn't want to go too bold. They didn't want to, you know, be too intimidating, but at the same time, you know, it's clean and it's neat, which is quite opposite actually sometimes to cooking. And that's why I actually think it's such a great logo. Are you modern and high tech? Are you an Uber? Are you sort of, you know, pushing the envelope? Are you challenging the status quo like an Apple? Are you that kind of brand? Or are you classic and traditional? So once again, here, you really need to understand, where am I going to fit on the spectrum? What is the message that I'm trying to give my client without saying anything? Are you cutting edge, or are you established? So are you, you know, is your product going to be a one-off cutting edge? I think Janice, who I don't think is on this call, but she's been liaising with me, she's a goldsmith and she wants to open a new business. And, you know, she's going to be quite cutting edge. It's going to be one-off products. So what is her logo going to look like? Or what is the logo that you are going to be using to ensure that you are going to be cutting edge? Or are you serious, or are you fun? And these are every single point here you really have to consider, because you want to be communicating your brand to your audience, to your clients, without actually having to, do all the work. Barksole, is Neil on this call? Neil from Barksole.
Yeah, he is. Do you want me to unmute him?
Okay, no, yeah, I just want to say, Neil.
I've got to find him.
Oh, no, it's okay, Sam. No, he's recently taken over the franchise in Century City. So please, guys, go and support Neil at Barksole in Century City. But that's an age-old, trusted, they've got this thick font. It's kind of friendly, and it's just kind of does what it says on the box. And I also, I use Barksole a lot, and I just wanted to sort of commend, I know it's not your brand, Neil, but I know that you've taken over. And I just think it's also that established, solid, trusting brand that one can trust, like a whole household name that is trusting. So I just wanted to mention you here as well. So if anybody does need Barksole, go and support Neil. He's just taken over that franchise. So yeah, and then not only getting onto these personality types, then you've got to think about the colors. And also in your worksheet, I know on the back page of your worksheet, you've got the color spectrum. So are you trying to create clarity and warmth? So once again, are we thinking of an MTN where it wants to be friendly? You want to be, warm to your clients. You think of yellow as being that kind of friendly, warm color. So is that what you're wanting to communicate? Or is it excitement? Or you want to be bold? Do you want to be bold? Do you want to incite that passion? Or, do you want to stand out? And that's where obviously the red comes in. And that was one of the big successes of Vodacom's rebrand, is when they actually changed to this red, and they started leaving out. In fact, we actually landed the Vodacom account for the Western Cape to do all their activations. And so they've got a new campaign now, Next Level Black, but they leave out the vowels and they become all sort of funky, and all their branding and marketing is now going into the clubs, because that is where this new market that they're trying to attract in the youth. And obviously that's how the youth kind of speak. So you really have to know your audience, know what they're looking for, and then adapt and design your brand accordingly. Or is it something that you want to, is it peaceful? Have you got a brand that's, either in the home market or a natural, organic? So that's more your blues and greens. Blue is very much a trust color. You think of the banks and, as I said earlier, insurance companies, a lot of blue is used in those kinds of brands. So is that something you also wanting to portray? Is trust something, one of your values, or is it something that you really want people to think about when they think about you? And yeah, black, obviously, just, clear, no nonsense, black and white logos are also very popular. If you are a sort of a no nonsense, like a Woolworths or once again, U-Cook, a kind of a brand, Zara has also used that, but much more of a funky font. So if you had to think of yourself and the kind of brand out there that you want to relate to, think of how then they have communicated and, how you're going to do it better. So those are all the kind of attributes that you need to start thinking about. The colors, the fonts, and they all tell a subliminal message and story from a psychology point of view. Yeah, Liz? You want to say something?
Les, I've got a couple of questions from Devora. They're in the chat box. Can I read it to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think a strong stance is important, and to choose a specific side rather than be too middle of the range? Should one have a strong stance in all these, sorry, it's just bounced, in all these brand personality aspects? And then she goes on to ask, what does the color teal represent? Her business is called The Hive, and her branding colors are teal and gray.
Okay. So we're going to take that part offline, because I think that could be a little bit more complicated, and I think we'll take that offline. But I mean, why would you want to be middle of the road and not stand out? I think would be my answer back to you. You know, as I say, we live in this, you know, manic world where there is so much information and so much out there. I think it is important to not take a sort of a soft approach. I think you do need to take a strong approach. You do need to be able to stand out. How are people going to find you, and how are you going to be memorable if you take a middle of the road stance? I think it's important to take a strong stance from the beginning. Yes, my answer would be yes. It is important. Okay, does that make sense? Is everybody comfortable? Are there any other questions at this point? Happy?
100%, thank you.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you for...
There is a question
yeah.
here. When your brand appeals to both old and young, how do you then balance how you appear to them?
Okay, I would obviously once again need to understand a little bit more about your product. I think it is possible. I mean, you look at Coca-Cola, or you look at chocolates, or you look at various brands, you know, there are lots of brands that appeal to across the board. And, you know, it's just how you want to communicate that. And what is the product or service that you are selling? And, you know, how are you going to then communicate that to, but I think my answer here is, who is your primary customer? Because sometimes you actually have to pick who is going to be my primary customer. Where am I going to get the most of my money from? And how am I going to ensure that I appeal to them the most? So I'm also happy to take that offline and then just understand your product and service a little bit better so that we can then help you with that. Okay, so remember, marketing is born out of psychology and economics. We buy with our hearts, not with our heads. So how are you going to make sure that you touch the hearts of your customers and your clients? So I really want you to understand the psychology behind this, and the psychology behind all of these subtle ways that these brands are actually communicating with you, and how are you then going to ensure that that is put into your brand and, you know, it forms part of. And remember, sometimes it's the simplicity of a brand that is, and that's what takes so long to get right. I mean, that's one of our massive challenges in our business when we do marketing and branding is, you know, how do we take a complex concept and turn it into something simple that it does stand out and become memorable, like an Apple brand or a Nike, all these big brands that I've just spoken about. It's really so vital. And I'll chat to you at the end. We've just come off a project called 67 Logos. Every year on Madiba Day, we partner with creatives, a pool of creatives in the industry, and we reach out to small businesses to help them, you know, sort of get a step up. And we design 67 logos on Madiba Day. So we have a lot of experience here. And if it's something that you are looking for, we have a pool of freelancers that we work with. So it's something that we can also offer you and help you with, just to get you started and make sure that you are on the right track. Okay, so that's stand out. Now, how are you going to establish a presence? And I think this is something that, okay, so you've got your product, you've got your services. Now, how do I get it out there? Our next session is all about sales, but the marketing is, you know, how, first of all, you've got to get your brand. You've got to make sure that you look good, you're ready to take it to market, and how are you going to establish this presence in the market? So with digital becoming such a easy to access, very accessible, and I mean, free resource, you really do need to use the various platforms that you have available to you. I'm actually going to share another screen now, because in your book, it's in black and white, but I'm just going to get out of this and I want to just share something with you. Share another screen. Yeah, okay. Okay. Can you all see that? Let me just try and make it a bit bigger. I don't know if I can. Can you actually, just give me a show of hands. Can you actually see that? I know it is in our book. Lisa, oh, everybody just, if you can just put up your hand to say you, or you can see it.
Yeah, we can
Okay,
see it.
Okay, so once again.
It's a bit small. It's a bit small for me. I don't know if other people can see it better.
You can unmute it. I mean, not unmute it. You can stretch the borders a little bit if you want to.
There we go. Look at you being so smart. Here we go. Thank you.
Because, yeah, we can't read the wording.
Oh,
no,
wait,
it's disappeared.
Oh, I think I've put it onto the next page probably.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay, yay. So, this is, for me, this was actually just such a great diagram that we kind of came up with to help with where do you communicate? What is my platform of choice? Because once again, different brands you be using different platforms. So what we did and what we also communicate to our clients from a marketing point of view is, what is your master content? Okay, so we wrote the book, The Entrepreneur Playbook, and that was our master content. That is now where we get all of our content from. So from a consistency point of view, so we kind of wrote the book, and this is where we're getting our master content from. All the information that you'd like your customers to know about you, that is your master content. Now, how do we break that up into bite-sized chunks so that it is more consumable to the people that we're trying to talk to? So either is that we turn it into articles. So often we'll write an article on passion, or we'll write an article on marketing, or we'll write an article on sales, or whatever the case may be. So we can turn these chapters into various articles, if we want to, from a PR perspective, or if we want to write a blog, whatever the case may be. So we take our master content and we turn that into a smaller piece of communication to our clients. Then if you are a product or service that is trying to attract the business, target market is business South Africa, you wanting to have a corporate client base, then LinkedIn, I believe, is your friend. It's much more of a business platform, and it's for opinions, it's for you know, once again, as I said, it's for articles, and you can really start promoting your business and yourself on LinkedIn. So it's establishing your credibility is what I believe LinkedIn is and should be used for. From a community point of view, if you are building a community, and that is, you know, much more of a lifestyle product, in my opinion, if you're building that community, that's where Facebook, Instagram, those kind of platforms are going to be far more suitable for you, because that is really creating a marketplace. It's kind of a, you know, email marketing, those kind of things, and you're going to be putting your content into much smaller bite-sized pieces for those kinds of platforms. If you're very much a visual brand, obviously Instagram is then your friend. So you've got to decide, what kind of a brand are you and what is the right platform? Because you don't want to go and sort of spray and pray, as it were. You want to build a community, build a following on the correct platform for your product or services. And then once again, there's Twitter, which is really just, you know, giving opinions, giving, and you can develop a huge following on Twitter also just by standing out and having an opinion on various topics and building your following through that. In our world, I'm not Twitter doesn't really suit us, but we're much more of a Facebook and LinkedIn kind of brand. But a lot of people have actually got a lot of success and following using the Twitter platform. So that's really about, you know, from a digital marketing point of view. And don't be afraid to use digital. As I say, it's free. And, you know, but how are you going to use it effectively to communicate your product and service? So that just gives you a little bit of an idea around that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to cancel that. go back. Are there any questions about this? Lisa, let me just get my stop share here. Okay. Any questions around the digital marketing strategy? Not? Okay. So then let's carry on. Okay. So that is very much establishing a presence from a digital point of view. PR is also your friend. So PR can be used very, very effectively. We use PR very effectively in our business. So sometimes it's not about what you say, it's also about what your other people are saying about you. So that's how you build that credibility and trust. So how are you going to develop relationships if you don't have a PR agency? And at this point, you know, maybe it's not something that you have the resources or the finances for, but how can you establish a relationship with some of the press so that you can, so that when you send them interesting topics or articles, and remember, they just are looking for how you're going to add value to other people's lives. They're not looking for a sales pitch. They're very much looking for how do you add value and how are you going to make a difference. So this is, if you're going to establish a relationship with the press, it's very much about, you know, what is your purpose and how are you going to build that community? How are they going to help you build that community? So it is good to either have a PR agency so that they can get you out there, or establish a relationship with the right press so that you can have a voice. Okay, then let's just go here, create an impact. So you need to, in the very early days of launching a business, it's very important to know how you're going to connect with the people that you need to connect with, and what impact are you going to make, and what is the difference that you want to establish, and what is the difference that you want to make in people's lives. So how are you actually going to go about creating this impact that you want to make, or that your product or service is wanting to make? In my worksheet, I have various marketing tools. So what communication methods that are you going to use to create an impact? Often, and one of the tools that we use, we often run 3 campaigns at the same time. So to see which platform is going to be the most successful. So you can run a Facebook ads. I think you can spend up to $10 on Facebook ads and reach probably 2,000 or 3,000 people. So you can really create an impact for a very low cost these days. But you've got to make sure that your message is right. So that the type of thing that we're doing at the moment, just from a CWDI point of view, we've just created a campaign called Challenge Us. So with the crisis, and I can't deny that we are in the middle of a crisis, and we are in the middle of an economic downturn. And so it is so important now to have a purpose over profit. So we actually created a campaign called Challenge Us. One of our bylines is we solve business challenges with creative solutions. So give us your business challenge, and if we come up with the right solution for you, then you obviously pay for it. If we don't, you don't have to pay for it. So what are the things that you can give away, or how do you create that following that you can establish that relationship with that client, where you can give something away for free to maybe start off with, but once you've developed that relationship and trust, then they can start paying for your services. So you can use the various digital platforms. You can use word of mouth is also hugely, obviously a little bit more difficult now, but word of mouth, asking for referrals, using your network. How do you then use your network to ensure that your product and service is getting out there? I mean, this is maybe where I'd like to hear from some of you. How did you actually create that impact? How did you create that following? How did you actually, ensure that people were buying your service and product? Using Flyers, obviously not really something that that I highly recommend, because I think there's a lot of wastage in that, but that can be, the property companies use that, you know, to great effect. So, you know, it can work depending once again on your product and service. Your website, it is very important to have some sort of a website, and even now to have an e-commerce website where people can actually shop online. This has become a massive upturn in the current situation. A lot of the people in our new book, Hope Stories, launched their e-commerce sites. And this is something that COVID has really done for us, is making e-commerce that much more acceptable, that much easier to use. People are not so nervous anymore about you know, giving their credit card details, because I think a couple of years ago there was a lot of fear around e-commerce, whereas now it's becoming much more accessible and easier to use. So we've also launched an e-commerce site during lockdown. It's not as expensive as you think it need. I think ours cost us 5,000 Rand, which given the fact that, you know, we launched it in about a week or two, can be cheap, can be cost effective. People are out there and you know, are giving deals at the moment. Just a little statistic that I heard on Monday: 3 million people have lost their jobs during COVID. So there are deals to be had out there at the moment, guys. There are deals with PR agencies, there are deals with branding companies, there are deals with freelancers. So there are deals to be had. And, you know, if you want to create an impact, you've really got to do your research, and you've got to make sure that you can find these deals, create these platforms, and just, you know, do the work. Because I think it's such an exciting time now to be launching a business, but you need to be smart. And, you know, you need to make sure that you are using the right tools for the right impact that you are wanting to create. So once again, going back to know your audience, know who you're trying to communicate, and go where they are. Okay. And yeah, I mean, there are various other marketing tools that you can use. But as I say, in this time, I really think that digital platforms are your friend. All right, and then have a proper strategy. So what do we mean by be strategic? So have a budget. How much money can I commit to? And that can be a percentage of your sales. So you really do need to be strategic about this. How much can I commit to marketing? You're not going to be able to get your product and service out there if you don't spend some money on looking good, on getting yourself out there, on promoting your services. So you do need to have a budget. And then how do you actually get to market? So we've discussed all those various ways that you can get to market, but have a strategy of, you know, where are the people that I'm trying to get to, and who are the other people that I can collaborate with? So collaboration has also become, and even in our business, we're collaborating now much more with other agencies that have different strengths to us. Collaboration, to me, where people before, in my opinion, were very closed and holding tight onto their, you know, products and services. Now there's a much more collaborative feel out there. Other agencies are contacting us more and more. So, you know, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. And they don't have to be your enemies. Sometimes your best sort of provider or supplier can actually be a competitor. The hotel industry, the guest houses work very, very well together. If one is full, they refer to each other. So you really have to be strategic about how you're going to get to market. Who are you going to collaborate with? Who are your friends? And reach out to them. People are sitting at their desks. They are sitting at home. They are more accessible than ever before now. And I really can't stress this enough. You know, we got hold of people during lockdown for our book that we would never normally have got hold of in their busy lives, because they were, you know, as I say, in lockdown, and they are accessible. So think about who your competitors are, who can you, you know, learn from, who can you collaborate with, and be strategic about that. Okay, where are the people? I go back to that. Make sure that you're going where your customers are going. And then I think my final and most important point is build your client base. Your database is of enormous value. So you really do need to build that client base and build that database. That is one of your most valuable commodities. And how are you going to build that database? How are you going to then ensure that you are always consistently communicating to those people, whether it is via emails, via your newsletters, via your social platforms? Once you've built that database, that then becomes, I mean, why do you think these massive deals are being done with TikTok and Twitter and Facebook? And, you know, because they've just got these enormous databases. So your database is a very strategic part of your business, and make sure that you are always delivering value to your clients. And when you communicate them, you know, it's kind of a give to receive. There's also a beautiful quick story that I want to tell you about this toilet paper brand in the States. I mean, toilet paper is a massive commodity. I mean, obviously it's just become a silly thing in lockdown as well. But there was this toilet paper brand that wanted to gain more market share. And, you know, I mean, toilet paper is toilet paper. So they thought, well, what can they do as a clever strategy to get more awareness and business? So they created this app for clean toilets in New York. So if you wanted to go to the loo in New York, they developed this little app to say the toilet on the corner of you know, Broadway and Fifth Avenue is a clean toilet, and there was a little happy smile or a sad smile, a sad face, and that this toilet brand sponsored that app, and their sales tripled because they gave away a service that really had nothing to do with their toilet paper, but that you know, gave value to their client base. Their sales tripled. They became, you know, sort of the household brand. And because they were clever in how they wanted to market their product, they didn't actually market it as the toilet paper. They gave away a service. So what can you give to receive? So I think that's also something that you really need to be thinking carefully about. I mean, just once again, you know, giving away recipes for, you know, you cook, for example. I'm sorry, I'm using you, Daniel. But, you know, that's nothing for them to give away a recipe for people to then to buy their product. So what are the things that you can give away that costs you nothing, but that is of value to your clients? So that is what I mean by being strategic. What can you give so that you can receive? So branding makes your business relevant in the mind of your consumers. So I really want you to just think about that. How are you going to be relevant in the mind of your consumers? A brand is a promise, and a promise kept builds credibility, trust, and loyalty within your brand. And I love this statistic. When people trust your brand, 82% will recommend it to other people. That word of mouth that I was talking about earlier. 83% will use your products and services frequently, and 50% will pay more for your products and services. When people trust your brand, 50% will pay more for your products and services. I mean, why do you think Woolworths is just so successful as well? When I use South African brands, I mean, their products and services are more expensive, but 50% of people will pay more for their products and services. So it's not only about cost. And this is the one thing that so many of the people that we mentor, and especially as startups, you think that you need to be, and I hate using this word, but cheap. You think you need to be, you know, your costs need to be low, you need to get into the market. Not always. When you've built your brand and you build that credibility and trust, people will pay more for your product if they can trust you, and if you do what you say and you are consistent and you've built your credibility. So really just think about those statistics. And as I said earlier, trust is a currency. So that is it's a really massively important to build trust. And if you do fail or don't deliver on time or something goes wrong, you have to also have that comeback strategy. What is something then that you can give to your customers to rebuild that trust? Because you want to be able to give that 100% bucket of trust to each other. And how do you make sure that it stays at that 100%? And that is by doing what you say you're going to do. Okay, whether you know it or not, you have a brand already, but is it the brand that you want? So I'm not sure if all of you do have a brand, but is it the brand? Is your brand what you've built already, the one that you want? And is it the one that is going to be communicating the right message to the right customers in the right place at the right time? Okay, and then this is also in your worksheet, I just included this. But, and I'm going to finish quickly on this last side, understanding the power of branding and using it. Yes, okay, to create incredible value in your business. You think of Coca-Cola. If Coca-Cola lost every truck on the road, lost every factory around the world burnt down, their brand is still more valuable than all of those physical products put together. So understand the power of your brand and use it to create value in your business. At the end of the day, people are going to buy your brand. When businesses sell their businesses, they're often buying that brand because of the power of that brand that you have built in your business. And that is why, for me, creating this logo, creating this brand is of the utmost importance. And that's why it comes so early on in our course, because it needs to be right. And just once again, finishing off now on your ideal customer, it has the problem, your customer has the problem that you are solving. Okay, so think about the problem that you are solving. Your client has that. They have time and money. Please, guys, remember, they've got to have a budget. You are here to make money. That is what you are in business for. At the end of the day, you don't want to work so hard that you're not going to make money and be successful. Because at the end of the day, that is the measure of your success. We don't necessarily always work for money, but that's how we measure our success. Okay? They get your business outcomes, they are engaged with your product, and they have the same worldview. That is your ideal customer. Those are the people that you're wanting to attract to buy your product. Okay, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our branding and marketing debate or talk. And now I am open for questions.
Okay, Les, there was a question earlier. Just got to find it. Digital versus print. What are your views on having business cards?
That's such a great question. We actually still have this debate. I think once again it depends on your brand and it depends on you. A lot of companies are going digital. I mean, you've got a digital presence, your email signatures. You know, I find myself not handing out business cards as much, and especially now, you know, in this, which I think is probably going to stick, this digital platform that we find ourselves in. If you don't have to spend the money on it now, but we also, CWDI has a lot of events and we have a lot of activations, and often that's an in-person connection. And a business card is still a nice thing to have, in my opinion, but you've really got to understand if that is right for you and your brand. It depends. I think it's a personal choice. Good question though, thanks.
But also, I mean, if you're not engaging with people one-on-one now because of lockdown and in isolation, as you say, maybe it's an expense you can do that at a later stage when you 100%. Are engaging, as opposed to everything being virtual now.
100%, absolutely.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing my screen. And,
okay.
I don't think we need this anymore.
And everybody, I mean, you can unmute yourself, so feel free to, you've got 10 minutes to take advantage of Les. If there's anything you want to check in
please,
with them.
I mean, I didn't go through all the stuff in your workshop, in your worksheet. It really is for you to help you also get clarity. I mean, I know that, you know, who is your ideal customer and why are they a good match for your business? I mean, these are all of the things that you also need to do in your own time to create that clarity for yourself. As I said in my last session, people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. And you also need to know who your customers are. So do the worksheets just for yourself, because often when you write things down, it helps you get that clarity that you need.
Some questions that have come my way over the years with being involved with ORT Jet is when the separation between the entrepreneur and the business. You know, like often the person running the business is the brand. So how would you suggest one deals with that kind of situation?
I think this is a big mistake that people make, Lisa, is that, you know, they don't separate themselves from their business. And you have to. Your business and you are you, and your business is an absolute separate entity. And whether, as I said earlier, if you like this or like that, it doesn't mean to say that it's right for your business. You've got to not think of yourself when it comes to your logo and your brand. You've got to be thinking of your clients, and you've got to be thinking of who are the people that we're trying to attract. And I think that that's what's important.
Leslie, it's Leslie.
Yes, hello.
Leslie.
Hello.
Can you talk a little bit maybe about brand architecture? Because I appreciate your feedback about my document being a little bit confusing, but part of why it's confusing is that Woke Africa is not really an external facing brand. We own brands. We own properties in inverted commas, so not physical properties, but we own experiences, like we own the Handmade Contemporary Fair. That has got its own specific brand. We own something called the Township Eatery Awards. We own something called Joburg Craft Week. So each one of those have got their own brands, but they all fall into a stable. So I just thought maybe it would be useful to talk a little bit about how you deal with that, where there's not one brand that's selling one product or service.
Okay, so you have to decide, are you trying to build your woke brand, or are you building the brands in your stable? So I think that that's quite important for you to establish.
No, for me, it's very clear. We're building the brands in our stable. But the brands that we choose to have in our stable have a consistency to them. So we wouldn't have a motor racing brand in our stable, because ours is very much about beautiful African bespoke lifestyle. So so there's a consistency to the things we own. But Woke Africa.
So are you trying to grow? So you mentioned 4 things that you own. Are you trying to grow that? Are you trying to own more things, or are you just trying to grow those 4 things?
Well, the intention had been to grow that stable, but with lockdown, our focus has been in stabilizing the ones that we own, so that they don't disappear, because all of them have been in real life brands. So we've had to come.
I really do want to have a conversation with you what we call a B2B business, or you business to business, not business to consumer. So it is a little bit of a different marketing strategy that you need to apply. And I think, you know, let's have a conversation offline. I will make myself available. If you want to stay on the line now, then I can just understand that a little bit better in terms of your exact market strategy. Okay, Sharon.
When you don't have enough time and you've got this amazing vision, when is the right time to start hiring people?
Okay, so thank you for asking that question. It's such a great question. So you must remember, and I talk about this in the leadership in the blue section. When you hire people, it's an investment, not a cost. Okay, so you have to make sure that then your time is being spent better doing the things that are going to generate you more income. So in other words, if you're doing the finances now, and you're doing the sales, and you're doing the admin, is that the best use of your time? Or if you were spending more time doing sales and building your business, and somebody else can be doing the admin, that's going to free that time up for you to ensure that you can grow your business. And this is where people get stuck, because it's a control issue. And, you know, when I built my business, making my first hire was, you know, they're not going to do it like I do it or whatever. And in fact, if you hire properly and you've got the right things in place, that is how you build your business. And it is about us entrepreneurs being able to let go, train the people that we wanted to train, so that we can stay in our flow doing what we do best. You cannot tell me that you are the best at admin and the best at sales and the best at marketing. If that isn't your lane, then get in your lane, get in your flow, hire people to do that. And that's how you grow your business, because the admin people will love doing the admin, and they will free you up from doing something that you hate, which is just going to make you depressed, and you're going to end up you know, not being productive. So do the things in your business you love the most, and hire the rest, because that's where your success will come from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, especially when you've got kids and you don't have all the time in the world.
No, absolutely. And once again, guys, there's opportunities out there. People are desperate for work, and you know, it can be on a smaller salary plus a you know, a commission or a percentage, or you need to be creative now. You need to do what's, you know, going to work for you, and you know, make sure that you're building your business in a strategic but also cost-effective way, especially in the early days. And you know, being creative with how you can pay people if you don't have the resources or the time. But you've also got to ask myself, if I don't do this, how can I then build my business? Don't operate from a position of fear. This is where you really do sometimes need to step into the arena and say, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at. Let me hire around you. It's like creating a puzzle around you.
Any other questions? Les, you know what would also be awesome is if everyone, I know it would take up quite a lot of time, but somehow everyone found out what each other does, because this is also an opportunity for networking. And Sharon's just raised a thing about, you know, hiring and possibly growing her team when she's ready. And I know that Dieter, who's also part of this course, has just started a very exciting business, Changing Lanes, which is a recruitment agency. You know, and everyone has got something to offer, and we could be collaborating with each other. So
100%. So maybe what we can do is, we actually did this quite successfully after our 67 logos, is we create a needs and leads board. So I need this, or, you know, I can do this. And, you know, how we can then help you. And that's just a Google document, Lisa, that people fill in if they have a need or they have a lead. And it can be with each other, but then it can also be with other, you know, people. I'm looking for this. And this is where Dawn and I can also help you. I mean, part of our mission is to create those connections and to connect you with people, you know, in our industries, or connect you with people that you need to be connected with, companies, to help you grow your business. So
I think what I would like to suggest is that next week, no pressure, I'm going to open up this call at 8:15. And if anyone wants to pop on earlier, then you guys can, you know, ask Les a question or introduce, you know, we just have that free time, as it were, to possibly connect and network. And let's just see how it evolves, if that works. Okay, for now, and then we can see.
And then also, guys, just from a you know, a branding and a logo point of view, as I say, we have a pool of freelancers. If you need help with your logo or your brand, please connect with me. We really, you know, as I say, this is what I love. This is, you know, this is really an amazing platform to help you establish the right brand for yourselves. And please connect with me, and I'll see what I can do and connect you to freelancers that can help you.
Great, thank you. So I'll send you all the recording later, and look forward to connecting next week. Thanks, Les. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Have a
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
somebody
Sorry?
If somebody wants to stay on the line, I can stay on the line for another 10 or 15 minutes. Karen, did you want to say something?
I'll email you.
You sure?
Are you sure? You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm positive. I think it's quite specific because it's wholesale related.
Okay, perfect. I'm happy
Okay.
to have.
I'd love to stay on the line if it's possible, Leslie.
Yeah, no problem at all. Happy.
And I also say